Hello everyone, I hope you are well. I've recently got back into reading mangas, and over the years on this channel I have spoken about the different mangas that I've read in my monthly wrap-up videos, but I've never done a video just dedicated to my reviews on mangas. So that is what this video is going to be. I'm going to review every single manga I have ever read. I'm going to start with Yona of the Dawn. This is about a princess who her fiance kills her father. She then has to flee the castle so she doesn't get killed, and her bodyguard is the one that gets her out of the castle. So it's an adventure. They're then on like a quest with each other, and she says to him, I want you to train me up like your apprentice so I can enact revenge. I loved it. I loved the art style, so I just loved the illustrations of the scenery. I thought it was gorgeous. I read on as much as I could through the library. So I bought book number 1 and then I read from my local library, and they didn't have all in the series. So I would like to buy the editions that I haven't got, and I'd like to actually buy it again from the beginning because I gave my volume number 1 to a charity shop. I just donated it because I thought, oh, I'm not going to read it again. I'm going to read the whole series through my library. But they did not have the whole series. I don't know why libraries stock mangas if they're not going to stock the whole series. It seems so pointless. I don't know what happens at the end of it because I haven't read through the whole thing, but I would love to know. And I just love that it wasn't like insta love. Obviously something's going to happen with them, but it wasn't instant. It was a build up, and she's also dealing with the grief of her father. I loved Yona of the Dawn. We then have Ranma Half. This is about a son and father. They go to this place, it's basically water, and they go into the water, and whatever drowned in the water before them is what they then can turn into. So the father goes into a bit of water where a panda has drowned, so then he can turn into a panda, and the boy goes into a bit of water where a girl has drowned, so he can turn into the girl. Dom loved this. He loves loads of different mangas, and this was one that he was like, you've got to read it, it's so good. I just didn't love it. I'm sorry, I just found it very confusing. It wasn't really for me. The art style, loved and adored, but I just unhauled it. I donated it to a charity shop because I knew I wasn't going to reread and read on with the series. And I feel like with manga, you have to be strategic with your shelves because you can really just fill up on the same volumes. You know, you can get loads of standalone ones that you're not going to read on in the series, and it takes up, whereas you know if you read a really long series that's going to take up a shelf. So you have to be strategic. You can't keep every manga, so that's why I had to just unhaul it. We then have Tokyo Ghoul, which is the only manga that I've given its own dedicated book review to because I loved it. So I'll put my review down below of it. It's a horror, it's very graphic, very gory. I really enjoyed it. None of these I have read in their complete entirety because I'm someone who will read some, and I read like to volume 4, and then if I'm not loving it I'm like, I need to start something else. And at this time that I was reading a lot of manga originally, I was getting them out from my local library. Do you remember when I lived in the basement flat? But they didn't have the complete series, so I get to volume 4, didn't love it, and I'd have to buy it from that point because my library didn't have any more of it, so then I just leave it. So a lot of these I've read to volume 4, but I really enjoyed, and now that I'm getting back into manga, I want to carry on with these series. I definitely want to carry on with Yona of the Dawn. I want to carry on with Tokyo Ghoul as well. We then have the one that I've probably spoken about the most on the channel, and it's Ancient Magus Bride. I don't know how many times I'm going to mention it, but here we go again. If you watched my latest unhaul video, I unhauled it, so I don't have it anymore. I just decided to get rid of like everything I own and just purge, and that's the one book I really regret getting rid of. So it's about this man who can only be described as a carcass for a head. I'll put in a picture so you know what I'm talking about. He buys this woman as a slave, and she doesn't know what's going to happen to her. She's very frightened. He then says to her, I'm going to train you up to be magical. And it's all about them making potions and spells, and I loved the way it was drawn. There's a lot of plants in it and herbs, and I loved that. And I really wish I hadn't got rid of it. We then have Idle Dreams, which is about a woman goes to a school reunion and they all kind of shame her for being a virgin, so then she wants to go back in time, and she goes back to being 15, but it's not back in time. She's got a 15-year-old body but now, and she wants to, it's all about reliving your life how you wanted it to go. So then she becomes an idol, and it's really about like living your life and getting to a certain stage as an adult and regretting it and wishing you could do it over again, and that's what happens to her. She can do it all over again and goes back to being 15. I found the art style really boring. It just didn't speak to me at all. I found it very simplistic. I really didn't like Idle Dreams. I then read Brides, or how it's known also as Bride's Story, and it is a historical manga fiction, and it's about this girl who is set in Asia, and it's around where the Silk Road was in the 19th century, and she has been told, you are going to get married in this arranged marriage, and so she is sent off to this distant village to find out who her husband is going to be, and she's thinking, you know, he's going to be the same age as me and attractive, what's he going to be like? And he's a boy. He's 8 years younger than her, and it's this little boy. And she's like, what? How is this going to work? And so obviously it's not like weird in any kind of way, because it's more like brother and sister and like a friendship, but she knows that she's betrothed to him and has to marry him. The art style was stunning. The way they did the detail on the saris was just, it was like a picture, like it was spectacular. I think I almost completed the series of this. The art style was just stunning. The storyline for me, I didn't love, and that's why I didn't complete it, because I wasn't that into the story of it, but the looking at it was just absolutely gorgeous. We then have Akira, which again I have another book review on. I almost forgot, I'll put that down below as well, and it's me and Dom in the book review, and Dom loves Akira, right? So he bought it for me to read because he loves it, and then in the book review I'm saying what I think it's about, and he's sitting next to me like and then he says what he thinks it's about, and it's literally like we've read 2 different books. My interpretation of it is completely different from his interpretation of it. It's the craziest thing. It's just such a funny video. Like the discussion of us, like, what? I thought it was like Clockwork Orange. I think that's what I said. I was like, it's like Clockwork Orange. These boys are lawless, doing what they want, taking drugs. It's about the government trying to control them from drugs. I didn't know. I didn't like it at all. I could not get into it, but it is one of Dom's favourite mangas. We then have The Dreaming, which I got this from a charity shop, and I thought, oh my god, I can't believe it, because I never see manga in a charity shop, and I'm always in charity shops scurrying around the books. And it's not a Japanese, it's one of the books that it wasn't done by a Japanese company either, so I think it's based in Australia, and these girls go to this school, and it's kind of like a boarding school. Is it haunted? The kids kind of go into the woods and disappear. Hated it. Like, it was fine for what it is, but I didn't read on. I didn't love it at all. We then have the one that I still have, Food Wars. This one I just couldn't unhaul. I just really liked it. It's about a teenage boy who he works at his dad's restaurant, and then his dad says, I'm going away for work, so I've enrolled you in culinary school so that you can get really good at your skill and become a professional chef. And the boy really wants to own the restaurant one day and run it himself, and the heiress at the school is like very snobby towards him. Who is this boy? He's just worked in a restaurant, he hasn't been properly trained, and he's coming to my culinary school, and she's just awful to him. And they actually has a recipe in this as well that you can make, and I loved it. And then at culinary school, he's so talented that when she tries his food, she's just almost taken to a heavenly state. Everyone else at the culinary school has already had professional training. I have spoken about Food Wars so much, and I don't really like the title, to be honest with you, because it just gives it like a childish feel, and it's not. It is a little bit racy, which I don't love those elements within it. So when the women try the food, like, it's obviously very over the top. They're in this heavenly seduced stage with his food, but if it wasn't so much over the top, it'd be like the perfect manga for me, because I love the recipes, I love the food in it, I love the relationships with everyone, but it's just a little bit too I like my mangas PG, do you know what I mean? We then have Chibi Vampire. This is about a girl who, she lives with a family of vampires, and obviously vampires get their like strength by sucking the blood of humans, but she has too much blood. She produces too much blood, so she has these nosebleeds because she produces too much blood. She has to bite the humans to let some of the blood out of her body into theirs, and then she meets this boy, and every time she's around him she has these nosebleeds. I didn't like it. I just didn't get it. I wasn't into it at all. I didn't like the art style, and I just didn't really get the plot. And that is it. That is every manga that I have ever read that I remember. Because I've unhauled so many, I'm sure there's more on the channel that I've spoken about, but they're just not memorable to me. I cannot remember for the life of me them. And because I've unhauled them, I don't remember. If I don't read on with the series, I just unhaul. I also got into like reading them out my library, so then I just thought there's no point having it physically here when I could just get it from the library myself. But I want to actually buy the mangas this time because the libraries don't have all the editions, and I also want to be able to reread them as well. So I think I'm going to start collecting mangas, but I don't like to, you know, if it's a huge series, I don't want to have like 3 huge series on the go because I will go bankrupt. In England, they're about £15 a manga. So I'm going to experiment, and I'm only going to buy 1 manga at a time. Watch me next week do like a manga haul where I'm like 6 mangas where they have 27 volumes in the series. But I really want to find a manga series and just really get into it. So I'm going to end this video here. I haven't read a huge amount of mangas, and I'm sorry if there's any that you're like, oh, you reviewed that on the channel, then please leave them down below. But I just think there are some others, but I really don't remember them. They didn't leave any impression, and I obviously didn't read on in the series. And I remember from my library, because you could do it on their website, I'd be like, book number 2 of Food Wars, and then I'd be reading along, loving it, and then it'd be like, that's it, that's all we stock. Ridiculous. Anyway, like me, like having such a beef with the library over the manga situation. Libraries are so bad at manga. What is going on with it? Anyway, I am gonna bankrupt myself now because I've got back into manga. Really want to find one series that will become like my manga comfort read series. So anything down below, tell me. I kind of like YA romancy stuff. I've read a lot of like traumatic mangas, maybe not so traumatic this time, maybe a bit of a nicer direction. So I'm going to end this video here, and I will see you again soon for another video.